Hey guys, it's Allie here. I know this is like really weird because I'm filming on my phone. It's like bad lighting. Like I literally just have my MacBook right here, my Bible, me, and a light over there. If you guys saw my last video, my camera's being really weird, and with everything going on with Corona right now, we like can't go out and like try and fix it or anything. So I just have to use my phone until then, which is kind of a bummer, but we're gonna do it. I just started reading Joshua today, like literally 2 hours ago, and I just thought I needed to jump in and just at least start talking about it while it's fresh in my mind, because I'm learning a lot already from this. Like it's just overwhelmingly amazing, and I just needed to film this right now. I wanted to talk about everything that I just learned while it's fresh in my mind, because it's pretty crazy. So basically the last thing we see is the book of Deuteronomy, and right at the end, Moses dies. So now we have this new leader appointed, which is Joshua. So Joshua steps in and he's like, it's my time to shine. No, he doesn't say that. But he opens up the book with this really, really awesome word right here that I just want to read for you guys. Joshua chapter 1 verse 9. Have I not commanded you, be strong and courageous. Do not be frightened and do not be dismayed, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. So this is just an amazing way to start off the book. It's just Joshua preaching this little message, just saying, remember, God keeps his promises. Just be strong and courageous and just believe that God is going to fulfill everything he says. And so this book basically just, that start was just awesome. Blew me away right at the beginning. Loved it. And then right away, we just jump into this awesome story where with Rahab. So Joshua decides to send some men to the land and into the land first. And basically, if you remember a while back, back in the Torah, Moses sent 12 men to go spy out the land. And this time Joshua only sent 2, because if you remember when Moses sent 12, only 2 came back and were not afraid. So Joshua was like, let me just send 2. So he sent 2 and goes into the land and comes to this woman's house. Her name is Rahab, and she's a prostitute. But these people come to find these men, and Rahab hides them in her house. And that was an amazing action. She was willing to protect these men without knowing a lot about them, but knowing where they came from. And she feared God. So you just see her like becoming this woman of God, which is really awesome. And basically just says, look, I protected you here. Like, is there any way you could protect my family, basically, in more modern day wording? And the 2 men say, like, of course, like, we'll make this covenant with you. When we come to Jericho, we will save you and your family. And it's just really awesome, a really awesome way to start off this book. Then fast forward a little more, Israel is going to cross the Jordan. So Jordan is this river, and basically to cross it, they're gonna have to go through it. So God, if you remember in Exodus, Moses with the Red Sea, how it parted, basically this happens again here in Joshua, but this is like, I feel like more people like think about the Red Sea and Moses, but it happens again here. So God like is like doing the same awesome miracles. So when they go to cross the Jordan, the waters will dry up. They walk on dry ground all the way through, and then it literally says the last person was a priest, and as his sole of his foot left the Jordan, the waters came back. So God kept the ground dry the whole time they were walking through, and just kept them safe. And then we see that the new generation, so if you guys watched my last one, the generation that traveled through the wilderness did not enter the promised land. It was actually their children that entered the promised land. So they, because of their journey, they're not circumcised yet. And God commands that they get circumcised in the Old Testament. So they're circumcised then, the whole new generation, and basically they have to wait until they're healed before they can have this awesome Passover. So their very first Passover happens in the land of Canaan, which I bet was so exciting. If you remember, they only like ate manna, so they finally got to eat and manna's like this really mysterious like frost on the ground that God always provided for them to eat, which still kept them full, but now they get to eat the fruit of the land of Canaan, which is just so exciting. So they're all like, yay, let's have our first Passover. And then this crazy thing happens where Joshua one night looked up and there's a man standing in front of him. This is like after the Passover happens. There's this man standing in front of him with a sword. So Joshua asks him, like, are you for or against us? Like, are you for our enemies or like on our side? And the man says, neither. And that's like a weird response. He's like, neither. So like that would make me a little uncomfortable. Like, okay, what do you mean? And then he says that he is the commander of the Lord's army. And so basically, if someone came up to me and said they're the commander of the Lord's army, I don't know what I would do. I have no idea. But Joshua fell down and worshipped him and said, what does my Lord say to his servant? And he said, literally, take off your sandals. You're standing on holy ground. So it's just like a welcome to the land, basically. Like the warmest welcome ever. Like, you're on holy ground. Like, this is your home for now. And so Joshua took off his sandals. Then we see the fall of Jericho, which I feel like a lot of people, that's kind of like a big story. Maybe you guys have heard about it, maybe you haven't. But basically, the Lord tells Joshua that they're going to stay and camp outside the wall of Jericho, and they're going to blast their trumpets, but not until the 7th day will the trumpet fall. So they wait outside, or not the trumpet, the wall fall. Trumpet falls over. Basically, they're going to blast their trumpets, blah, 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 until the 7th day. Then they're going to shout. And when they shout, the wall will just fall flat. Literally, just, ah! That's what's going to happen. God's going to perform this miracle where the wall just, and sure enough, the wall of Jericho comes falling down, and the people are able to come into Jericho, and guess what? Just as they had promised earlier on with Rahab, they saved, sorry, my computer like keeps turning off, I want that more light, but just as they had promised that they would save Rahab and her family, they did. So they made sure that they didn't completely destroy everything, and that they at least saved Rahab like they promised, that they made that covenant, and that happened. It's really, really cool. They're able to come into Jericho, and it says that it's like, you see throughout this whole book of Joshua, devoted to destruction. The edge of the sword, no survivors, like everything that breathes dies, which sounds super dark and evil, but it's not, and it's kind of a hyperbole, and some people might be like, what? Like, what do you mean? Like, I don't know if I completely agree with that. I'm going to link a video below that I also linked in my last video, in case you didn't watch it. Just go and see what that's about. They talk about that in the book of Joshua, but it also kind of says it a little bit in Deuteronomy and Numbers, so I wanted to put it there too, but it says it a lot in here. So go watch that video. They really make it more understandable. After this really awesome story where they just defeat Jericho, this awesome victory, then all of a sudden things take a really weird turn when Israel's actually defeated at Ai. Is that how you pronounce it? It's Ai, right? It's literally Ai. Aya? I don't even know, guys. It's literally just spelled AI. So, they're defeated, and Joshua's like, what happened? Why were we just defeated? I don't understand. He's confused. And then we find out the sin of this man named Achan. Achan, I think that's how you say it. A-C-H-A-N. Some of these names are confusing for me to pronounce. We find out that this man, basically when they were in Jericho, they said, leave everything for destruction. But this man took this coat and a beautiful cloak and 200 shekels of silver and a bar of gold weighing 500 shekels. he stole them, even though God said, like, don't take any of this. And Israel's like, yeah, we'll obey. Yeah. And then this man goes and steals from it. And he's not exactly just stealing from Jericho. He's actually stealing from God, because all that was left in Jericho was for God. Leave it there. This is for God. So he basically directly just stole from God. So yeah, they were defeated at Ai because of this sin. And Achan costed the lives of 36 men. So that's a pretty huge sin. The only good thing that he did in this was at least confess that he did do it. Joshua told him, was like, don't hide this from me. What did you do? And he told the truth. And unfortunately, because this sin was so big, he did have to die right then. However, it seems super severe and crazy, but we have to remember that they were warned, like, beforehand, like, don't do this, like, I'm just saying, like, don't take anything. And he's like, nah, and just stole it anyway. So it's like, well, you've had probably tons of chances before, and that was just like the worst thing you could do at this point. And then after that, they go back to Ai, and they are able to defeat them without Achan at this point. He's gone. They stoned him, and they burned the cloak and all the stuff he stole, but they're moving on. And they defeated Ai. I don't even know. Then after Joshua renews the covenant, they destroy Ai. We go and we see the Hivites, who are also known as the Gibeonites, the inhabitants of Gibeon. We see them like kind of fake them out. Like, they basically came to Israel with stuff that was like old, like this old stuff, like this old wine skin, worn out sacks, worn out bread, I think it was, like something like it was dry and crumbly. And he came to them and came to Joshua, their people, and was like, look, we brought all this stuff for you, but it took so long for us to get here that I'm sorry, it's like all ruined, but like we tried our best. When we took it, it was like warm. Like when we took out this bread, it was like warm and fresh, and now it's all dried up and like all this stuff. And basically it was like, can you make a covenant with us? And I think he asked, what did he say? Please, we are your servants, come make a covenant with us. And the men who, seeing this, did not ask counsel or seek counsel from God. They just said, all right, we'll make a covenant with you guys. They make the covenant. They don't go to God about any of this. And then we soon learned that they were actually their neighbors. So they just made a covenant with their neighbors. They weren't far away. They didn't have warm, fresh bread. They just wanted their protection and basically deceived them and lied straight to their faces. But because they made a covenant and they didn't go to God, they couldn't destroy them, because now they have this covenant with God. As mad as they probably were at them and they wanted to destroy them, they were faithful and they didn't destroy them because they had this covenant with God. So the Gibeonites are safe in a way that they shouldn't have been saved, but they are now. And then we see these 5 kings, who I'm gonna read like their actual names. It is the the king of Jerusalem, the king of Hebron, the king of Jarmuth, the king of Lachish, the king of Elglon, and the king of Eglon. These 5 kings come up with this great idea after hearing about the Gibeonites to go and make war with them. And they thought it was a really good idea on their half. Not really. So basically, the Lord, probably seeing this, is just like, all right, really? And just like says like to Joshua, like, don't fear them, like, you guys are gonna win, basically. And they do. They win. And unfortunately, all these people die because of these 5 kings who thought that they were so high and mighty. And the 5 kings were actually executed, and it gives like excruciating detail about like when they execute the kings. Like when they execute kings, we see that like 2 times in the book of Joshua, at least what I've read so far, they're hung. So, and then they're like thrown and like stones are stacked upon them. So, that's what happened here. But, so you can see just some like harsh stuff going on, but this is really early in the times. And, basically, it kind of tells us about the kings that were defeated by Moses, kings that were defeated by Joshua, the land that's still to be conquered, then the inheritance of east of the Jordan, the inheritance of west of the Jordan, and then there's Caleb's request, who's just basically like, look, when I entered, like this first time when I talked to Moses, who told me I was going to enter the promised land, I was 40 years old. Now he's 85 years old. He's like, I'm just as strong. Could I please have this hill country? That's what it's the hill country. This hill country. And Joshua blessed him with the hill country. And then just as that had happened, there's like the atonement for Judah. And just as that had happened, Caleb was able to drive out those people, and then he gets his hill country, just as the Lord promised him. And hey guys, it's Editing Allie here, and I have no idea why there's not an ending to this, but I hope you guys enjoyed this study of Joshua. It was a really, really good book. If you haven't read it yet, if you're watching this before reading it, I encourage you to go read it because it's a very, very awesome book. Like, there's so much in it, and I was intrigued the whole time reading this. So I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I will see you guys in my next video, which hopefully is up really soon, but Christmas and holidays are crazy, so I don't know. Okay, bye!